Alright, I've just finished training at Absolute. Pardon me. I'm making this video to answer Brighton's question on my last post, which was about being intentional with your training in Jiu-Jitsu. In this video, I'm going to discuss strategies for reviewing your own footage, as well as the importance of it. So, what you do is, you set up your camera, okay? You set up your camera, preferably somewhere that is high up, and the further away, the better. Because what I found is if you have it down low on the floor, people knock it over, people get in your way, and also you go out of the frame. If you set it up high and far away, you're going to be able to zoom in on your phone, and you're going to be able to follow you around, and you're more likely to not have people get in the way or knock it over or whatever. In each of your rounds, even in the class, it actually all starts with you having an intention for the class, which you'll hear all the time. It all starts with an intention for the class. What am I going for today? Okay? The more specific you can be, the better. Because when you're specific in your intentions, kind of tying into the last topic, the more specific you can be with your intentions, then the more measurable your progress can become. Okay? Just like going to the gym, lifting weights and then sticking to a few exercises and then monitoring your progress over time, rather than sporadically picking exercises and then just doing whatever you want, okay? Be specific with your intention. I can go into greater detail with this in another video and how we do this. But anyways, be specific with your intention. Go through your rounds, and at the end of your class, what you want to do is, whenever you can, what I like to do before I review my footage is stop and think. What are the general things that occurred, or like what are the recurring themes, or what were the recurring themes throughout the class? Where did I get stuck? Where was I successful? And are there any questions I have? Okay? And then what you want to do is you want to review your footage and fixate on your first priority techniques, the ones you were going for in the class, the things you were trying to accomplish. Watch them back, okay? And what I like to do, because you have so many resources these days, there's so many places you can get information, so much online footage of high-level athletes doing the same techniques you're going for. What I do, personally, is I use a program by a guy on YouTube named BJJ, and he has a program called the Outlier Database. And what I like to do is, I like to just search up, literally, the exact same techniques I'm going for. Okay? And then what that does is, that brings up videos at a timestamp at the exact moment they went for that technique, okay? And what I'll do is, I will screen record it, and I will put it into one compilation of like 2 to 3 minutes. And what I will do with the footage that I've taken before of my own rounds, I will do the exact same thing. Cut up those same sequences that I'm studying, both on myself and on other athletes. I will watch what I'm doing, and then I'll watch what they're doing. What are the differences? You kind of play the game of like remember those puzzles where it was like, spot the differences? You're doing the same thing with your techniques, okay? And then what you can do is, you can make adjustments as necessary. And then eventually, what this will allow you to do is play into, I think, one of the main goals that everyone should have for Jiu-Jitsu is to just understand Jiu-Jitsu better. And the best way we do this is to break down the sport, just like with any other set of skills or anything that we're trying to learn, a language or whatever, we break it down into the key elements, and then we learn it piece by piece. And then as we slowly introduce different pieces to our puzzle, what you'll find is you'll have a better ability to recall information in your rounds just in the moment, but you'll also just get better at watching jiu-jitsu, because watching jiu-jitsu is fucking hard. Okay, it's not an easy thing to do. I actually cannot see what's going on. I'm in traffic at the moment and I don't know if I can go or not because there's cars in the way. Okay, anyways, let me pause this for a sec. Yeah, you'll be able to understand jiu-jitsu better. You'll be able to watch jiu-jitsu and understand what's going on because you've broken it down into the key elements of what's happening. Okay? And it's also important because what you'll find is there's going to be a gap between what you remember and what you actually see when you watch the footage. And a lot of this is going to be geared towards closing that gap as much as possible. Because the more you can have a better understanding of what occurred in the moment without having to watch it from a third person perspective, the better. Because again, you just understand jiu-jitsu more. Okay? So first we've tackled our first order sequences and techniques that we're going for. Now what we also want to go back to is look at our other questions that don't really pertain to our first order sequences, our first priority sequences, but are more kind of general and other positions that we get stuck in, because our rounds will go out of the scope of what it is that we're trying to accomplish, because inevitably you will go up against people who are far better than you and put you in places that you don't really understand or you're not really skilled or efficient in. So then what you do, again, or what I like to do, is do the same thing with those sequences and either use clips of athletes that I have found online, or even compare it to small 2 to 3 minute segments of instructionals that I have. So then what you're doing is you're not only tackling your main priorities like techniques and you're making progress in that, but you're also slowly chipping away at other positions that aren't really in the same line of sequences. So then what you're doing is you're not playing a game where you're only sharpening one sword, okay? What you're doing is you're sharpening that one sword and you're becoming very competent with it, but you're also still like leveling up your competency and awareness in other positions as well. So you're not just completely a fish out of water outside of your own main technique or techniques, right? And then what you do is you ask yourself after every class, did I accomplish what I was going for today? Did I do it well? Am I satisfied? Am I ready to move on to the next step of my sequences? If the answer is no, if you weren't successful, then what you do is you go back and you review that footage. You go back and you ask your professor. You go back and you watch that 2 to 3 minute segment of your instructional that you were studying before class. And what you do is you do this back and forth between being a completionist of the things that you're going for, but also building rapport with your coach or your professor, and also just studying, okay? So that you're not just sporadically moving between techniques, but you're fleshing out each key element of your jiu-jitsu, okay? Really, really important stuff. Now, selecting the techniques that we're going for is another topic, okay? And how we move through it is another topic. And I'll go through that in another video. But for now, this was the importance of studying your own footage and how to do it.